Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel Economic Data Preparation. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic in Indian economic history, that the Indian economy before 1991. The 1991 is considered a turning point in India's economic journey because that's when the country adopted the policy of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. But to really understand why those reforms were necessary, we must first understand how the Indian economy functioned before 1991. So, in this video, we will cover the structure of the economy before 1991 and also the role of agriculture, industry, and trade, the system of planning and public sector dominance, major problems and challenges of that period, why economic reforms become unavoidable. So let's begin. The first, the features of Indian economy before 1991. The Indian economy after independence and before 1991 was often described as a mixed economy with socialist orientation, and also the key features included the dominance of agriculture, that is around 70% of the population was dependent on agriculture for livelihood. Industry and services were still underdeveloped, and also the centralized planning. The Planning Commission prepared 5-year plans which guided the allocation of resources, and public sector dominance, and the government played the leading role in industries, banking, insurance, transport, and infrastructure, and license permit quotas. Private the private sector was controlled by licensing permits and quotas. This came to be called the license raj. Import substitutions and protectionism. The India followed a protectionist policy by restricting imports through tariffs and quotas with the aim of encouraging domestic industries, and also the Hindu rate of growth, that is 3.5% per year. That is obviously the slow growth. The economy grew at around 3.5% per year, which was much lower than many other developing countries. So overall the economy was highly regulated, controlled by the government, and not very dynamic. Now the agriculture before 1991. Agriculture was the backbone of the economy. The contribution to GDP was very high, but productivity was low. Dependence on monsoon created instability before the Green Revolution in the 1960s. The India faced frequent food shortages and even had to import food grains under the PL 480 program from the USA. Green Revolution introduced high yielding seeds, fertilizers, irrigation, which improved production of wheat and rice, but it was concentrated in Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, leading to regional inequality. Thus, um, while agriculture provided employment to most Indians, it failed to generate high incomes or industrial surplus. Now, industry before 1991. Industrialization was a priority for India's development strategy. The second 5-year plan, that is the Nehru-Mahalanobis model, emphasized the heavy industries and capital goods. Large industries like steel, coal, power, railways, banks, and insurance were under the public sector. Small-scale industries were encouraged, but they lacked technology and capital. Industrial licensing restricted private sector entry and growth. That is a result, the growth of industries was slow, efficiency was low, and India failed to compete globally. This this rigid system was nicknamed the license permit quota Raj. Now, come to the foreign trade before 1991. India's foreign trade policy was inward-looking. Uh, Heavy restrictions on imports to save foreign exchange. Export promotion was weak, and Indian goods were often uncompetitive. The balance of payments was always a problem because imports of oil, machinery, and defense goods were high, while exports were mostly agricultural goods. In short, India remained relatively closed to the uh, world economy. Next, come to the planning and public sector. Planning and public sector was considered the key tool for development, and the Planning Commission allocated resources through 5-year plans. The public sector was expected to be the engine of growth. Key industries, that is, banks, insurance, and its infrastructure, were nationalized. However, the public sector often became inefficient, suffered from losses, and created a burden on the government. Now, come to the major problems of the economy before 1991. The main issues included low, low GDP growth rate, that is into growth rate, high unemployment despite population dependent on agriculture, poverty and inequality remained widespread, inefficient industries due to over-regulation, food insecurity before the Green Revolution, fiscal deficits due to high government spending and loss-making public enterprises, uh, balance of payment crisis because exports were weak and imports costly. These problems kept India stuck in a low growth trap. The Now the crisis of 1991, and also we should learn why reforms became necessary. So by 1991, the problems reached a peak. The foreign exchange reserves fell to just enough for 2 weeks of imports. Inflation was very high. Fiscal deficit was unsustainable, and the international lenders like the IMF had to provide emergency loans to India. This forced the government to open up the economy and start the LPG reforms, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. In conclusion, so friends, the Indian economy before 1991 was marked by overdependence on agriculture, state-controlled industries, protectionist trade policies, low growth, and inefficiency. While the intentions were good, like self-reliance and social justice, the system created stagnation. The crisis of 1991 became a turning point that changed India's economic direction forever. So, in the next video, we will discuss the reforms of 1991 and their impact on the Indian economy. So thank you so much for watching. If you found this lecture helpful, please like, share and subscribe to the channel for more educational content. Thank you.